My name's Zach.
My name's Jake.
And today we're cooking the apple tart, which is a well-known dessert today and eaten by many people.
But back then it was a big deal because fruits and spices were only accessed by the upper class, which were the monarchs and the nobles. And I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of, a caviar today.
So we already cooked the crust, as you can see. You could have chose to use a Pillsbury, but we chose to do a homemade crust. And now we're gonna move on to our next step. See there.
So I just cut up the apples, and our thesis is that food dictates social class because, say today you see someone walking around with caviar and you see the next person walking around with McDonald's. You know who's the higher class there.
And I can't do this step because, well, I have a mild allergic reaction to apples. You want to look at my eye? It's all swollen. So I'm doing this for the project. So let's keep going.
Alright, just put the apples in.
So many times. Food dictates social class. Now, we talked about how it dictates today, but we didn't talk about back then. Now, some of the foods that the upperclassmen ate was pretty much an apple tart was a good example of their desserts. They ate they had feasts and thousands of vegetables, fruits, spices, a lot of colorful, nice foods. What the poor people ate was like the scraps, like the leftovers. They had black bread, and that wasn't really the best food. So that's how you could tell if someone was really high or low in class. In the middle class, ate a variety of both. Not really feasty, but they had like a good amount of food. So now what we're doing right now is we have a bunch of spices in here, which the poor people wouldn't have. As you can see, this is why it was a high class food. And we're gonna put all this. We're gonna sprinkle this on. So I don't want to touch the apples because my eye's getting worse, but we'll try. I'm not really good at cooking, but we can do it. You want to lightly sprinkle it over.
Stop there.
And you just want to get it all in there. Now, as you can see, I'm not the best cooker, but I'm trying my best. We're back. Okay, so we finally finished after an allergic reaction, not enough pie crust, it's like this, but we finished. So now we didn't do the decorative pie because, well, we weren't really that decorative. So we just put the things in, and now we're doing a lattice pie crust sort of on the top, but we didn't have enough, so we couldn't really finish it, but it'll still come out good. So it's really not like a pie apple tart, but it's sort of like a pie more. So now we talked about what people ate, but now let's elaborate on what they ate. So the average person during the Renaissance was a peasant. And peasants would eat soup or mush, like mushy stuff, like gross scraps in their soup. And they would also generally have some black bread once in a while. And the soup would be made of like vegetables such as carrots or eggs. And mush was made from like some kind of grain substance. Now we have the rich people in the Renaissance. And the wealthy people during the Renaissance ate way better, of course. And they enjoyed having huge feasts and lots of fancy exotic foods and like desserts and first course, second course, but really the peasants had like one course. So it's a lot different. So, and they usually had like these nice soups and broths, and the soups were spiced and the exotic spices and sweetened with sugar. And they ate a lot more meat. And a peasant wouldn't have a ton of meat, but the rich people would have a lot of it and wouldn't consider it much. And finally, they would have juices and rose water to add flavor to their things, or just a drink. And that's it. And now Jake's gonna be putting this in the oven.
Putting it in the oven.
That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that didn't turn out too bad.
No.
So this is our pie in the end. It turned out pretty good, so I guess you guys are going to be able to taste it tomorrow. And we pretty much, the strips turned out good, and that's it. Go.
So we're going to talk about drinks with the meal. Usually, people didn't drink water with the meal, at least rich people didn't drink water with the meal. They drank either wine or beer usually, as alcohol was becoming very popular after the Middle Ages. And usually the peasants and the poor people drank water with their meal, sometimes dirty because they couldn't have access to clean water. And silverware. So in the Dark Ages they didn't have any silverware, but going into the Renaissance they made silverware made of silver, and only the very rich people had silverware, and the rest of the people ate with their hands.
So, in conclusion, our thesis was that the food you ate determined what social class you were in. Now, Jake talked about the silverware, and let's say you see someone with nice silverware, and then you see someone with eating with their hands. Who are you gonna think is the one? Who are you gonna think is the one who has more, who's more rich or more poor? So, of course, you're gonna think the person with the silverware. Now, today times have changed. Everyone eats with silverware. No one eats with their hands except the really poor people. So we could tell that as time went on, the more expensive things got less and more cheap, and now we have more expensive. Now we have the things that are expensive today. For example, now we have people eating caviar and more expensive things compared to now we're using silverware, which was considered rich back then. Go.
So, in conclusion about the spices and drinks, only rich people had spices and drinks back then, but now, as you can see over here, have a whole spice cabinet. You know, you open up the fridge, you have a bunch of drinks in there, and that's pretty much everywhere, ranging from, you know, higher class to lower middle class, and then, you know, people who are homeless don't usually have, you know, a spice cabinet. But back then, spices and drinks were inaccessible, basically. Well, I mean, not water, of course, but people couldn't harvest the spices that they need. If they weren't rich, they couldn't buy them, and the wine and the beer were very expensive.
So,
We're the Renaissance Cookers, and this is our pie.
okay, now this is just our cleanup of everything. We know we got a bunch of stuff to clean up. Well, I mean, most of it was already cleaned. We're just showing you like the ending results. Just putting stuff away. Hi. Jake's over there eating some goldfish. Okay, and thank you for watching, and bye.